you're a big runner. Guess we're going to start here.
Newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio with us today. Brian Klimowski, head meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Belmont, is with us. Welcome back, Brian.
Good morning, Paul.
We saw you in the spring.
That's right.
Got a spring-summer forecast from you. Pretty dead on there. Now we're here for fall, winter, and probably even looking at next spring, too, because we've got the El Nino going on. Before we talk about the El Nino, which has been building and building throughout the year, let's kind of recap spring, summer, if we can.
No, we can. Boy, it was an interesting one.
It was unique.
Us. It absolutely was. We kind of came into it, you know, after a pretty dry winter, or at least warm winter, and the spring and early summer kind of saved us.
It did. Cool. It was weird.
It was cool. It was rainy. We saw a lot of rain, an unusual amount in June especially. And it wasn't as windy as it normally was, so it kind of really suppressed the fire season we thought we were going to have here in Arizona.
I tell you, when February and March was so warm and so dry, and then not having winter really, I thought for sure we were going to be in store for one heck of a wildfire season. And then, all of a sudden the heavens opened up and it was just a ton of rain.
It was. It was a good thing to see. And very beneficial.
And we've been talking about with the Forest Service too. When you drive around and if you head north or anywhere around the area and you look, things are, well, they're starting to brown up a little bit now because winter's just around the corner and fall and winter. But it was very, very green. The plant life, especially along I-17 headed north, I've never seen the grasses and the flowers and stuff as tall as they were this year.
It was spectacular.
So do we kind of know, did we get more rain than not? Because I've asked you a couple of times, and I'm in Mountain Air, and I thought, you know, we didn't do a whole lot this summer because it always seemed to be raining at my house. But kind of Arizona hit and miss type of thing.
It was hit and miss this year. You know, unlike the past 2 years where we've had pretty widespread above normal monsoonal precipitation, this year was more spotty. I would say it was as close to normal as we could get, with some locations, especially to the east and north of Flagstaff, are well above normal for the monsoon, let's say from mid-June through mid-September. But areas on the west side of Flagstaff, Yavapai County, a bit drier than normal. So it was hit and miss, pretty much what we would expect for a monsoon.
It seems northern Arizona has had their fair share of in the Page area and south of Page, between Flagstaff and Page, have had some major events this year, shutting down the road, damaging roads, and things like that.
Yeah, some stunning events this year. You know, the one you mentioned with Highway 89A being closed was a massive, what we call supercell thunderstorm that moved very slowly across the area, dropped probably close to 2 inches of rain within 15 minutes, and just inundated the wash in the road. And there's some spectacular video out there which shows that. So.
Yeah, and Rimrock had an event where they had a burst of some sort that came down. I had somebody tell me there was a tornado, but we never did know if it was a tornado or not, but I think what we came up with was it was like two storms colliding or something right there near I-17.
Yeah, probably a strong downburst.
Right yeah. But there were power poles that were snapped in half. Somebody took a picture of the main road there through the Rimrock area, in Montezuma Rimrock area, and I noticed there were several poles snapped in half, and there was a vacant motorhome that was actually taken and flipped upside down, and roofs ripped off of buildings. The airport area out there seemed to be the most devastated by it.
And then also nearby in the Verde Lakes area, we had the flooding early in the season in that area as well.
Right. So. It's easy to forget what happens because week by week we have so many different things that happen. And these storms, we brought you in at the beginning of spring to kind of talk about that, and we did talk about Monsoon Awareness Week, which is I think we start that off in June. So we had you in then, I think too, and we kind of talked about these are the dangers we got to watch out for: the lightning, the thunder, not the thunder so much, but these microbursts.
Yeah.
They're quite the things.
They can be, especially in the southwest, where the atmosphere is normally pretty dry in the lower part of the atmosphere. As the thunderstorms rain down, that rain evaporates, causes it to get heavier and just gust out on all sides of the storm.
All right, that's our spring and summer. It was interesting, that's for sure. The big thing that we've all been talking about, and it's been going on for a while, we've been talking about it for a while now too, is the El Nino. And it was earlier this month, the federal forecasters had put out a press release saying that El Nino was upgraded this month by the federal forecasters to an unusual strong status. which is kind of an unusual designation. What does that mean?
It means it's likely to be a top 5 El Nino. Since we've been keeping records, say since about 1950,
Okay.
This is going to be one of the strongest ones we've ever observed.
What does that mean?
It means that there's a likelihood that we're going to see significant regional I'll just say changes in our wintertime precipitation. For the southwest United States, there's a pretty good correlation between strong El Ninos and enhanced amount of precipitation over the winter. In areas like Australia, it implies a drought.
Okay, so opposite for them.
Opposite for them, that's
Okay,
right.
so we're going to pull. So okay, we know that the Pacific is warming up, and I think in the story that they sent out that it was with even warmer waters in the central Pacific in August, the hottest in more than 17 years. The Prediction Center moved the El Nino up from moderate status to what I said was the unusually strong status.
That's right.
So the waters are incredibly warm out there.
That's right. And out there means the equatorial Pacific.
Okay.
Okay. Imagine the Pacific Ocean off to our west, and then around the equator, there's an area there which cycles from warm to cold to warm to cold. We're not sure exactly why it happens, but it does happen. When it's in the warm phase, this is what we call the El Nino. And there's a little box of an area between 120 degrees and 165 degrees longitude and plus minus 10 degrees latitude, which is where we actually have a number of buoys that measures the sea surface and the sub-sea temperatures. And that's how we actually categorize the strength of the El Nino, like this current one, as a strong El Nino.
Am I wrong in saying it seems like it's been building for a long time this year?
It's been predicted for some amount of months, but it's actually only been present, I think, for 3 or 4 months.
Okay, because I thought, I don't want to say last winter when you were here, we were talking about, but definitely spring. It seemed like we were already talking about El Nino was showing
That's right.
signs.
That's right.
And that it was going to affect our spring and summer. Okay, and it didn't have that much effect on our spring and summer.
Well, interesting. Last spring, when we talked, one of the things we mentioned was that the monsoon might be characterized by periods of dryness, to where we get some strong westerly winds and it just clears us out for a week or so. And indeed that happened a couple times this summer, to where we'd have these, quite frankly, unusually blue skies in the middle of our monsoon, for a week or so at a time. And it's not too much of a stretch to assume that these periods of fair weather in the middle of our monsoon might have been correlated or at least influenced by the El Nino, which was enhancing those westerly winds.
Now, El Nino changes which direction our storms come in from. Does it do that as well?
Basically what it does is it allows for more storms to track in from, let's say, Southern California. It enhances the southern jet stream and that storm track, which is more moist storm track for us, what they call the Pineapple Express in California.
Okay.
Where these moist, warm storms come in from the southwest and can bring copious amounts of precipitation.
Now, I know Southern California is wanting a bunch of rain because they haven't had much, and we all know California has just been on fire, it seems like, for years now. So are we looking, the storms kind of, I guess we get the storms out of the Pacific Northwest, right, during the wintertime. That's typically where our storms come from.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, out of the west, I think, would probably be the best way to say. They can come out of the northwest, out of the southwest, but, some westerly component.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where the monsoon comes out of the Baja, Mexico?
Out of the south and southeast is where that moisture comes from. Yes.
So that's gone now. Is the monsoon gone?
Basically, yeah.
Pretty much. So what we're seeing now is the storm that we were supposed to have that did come through. It didn't actually. It didn't do as much as you guys had predicted it was going to do.
Yeah, for northern Arizona.
But southeastern Arizona and over by the White Mountains, eastern Arizona, I was talking to you guys up there at the forecast office this morning, and they were getting 3 and 4 inches of rain yesterday, which is a substantial amount of water in a short period of time. Is that kind of the track we're looking at, or is that not for El Nino storms to be moving in from?
Not related.
Okay.
What we saw was a tropical storm remnant, basically, that kind of migrated into the area. The El Nino storms will be coming in from the west. Monsoon storms, they're basically weakly forced, we say, and they can move almost any direction, but the moisture source is from the south and east.
Okay, all right, let's take our first break. Head meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Belmont, Brian Klimowski, in studio today. Their website is noaa.gov, noaa.gov. Stick around, countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
Everywhere that we go, he makes people laugh and makes people smile, and I feel like I have that quality.
He's the one who always takes me fishing. I watch golf with him. And
I watch him cook, because when I grow up, I want to be a cook too.
We have the same faces like this.
Dad is the one, when you fall, that picks you up.
That unconditional sense of presence and reassurance is really what makes him my father.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat?
1 in 5 children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
That is a pretty good breakfast. You're not even eating.
Not hungry.
No? Why not? What's up?
Kath and I knew that Jenny'd been partying a bit. Found out she tried heroin.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Welcome back to County Wine. Brian Klimowski with the National Weather Service in Belmont in studio with us today. We're talking about the El Nino winter that is coming up ahead. We've had some big El Ninos in the past.
We certainly have.
Yeah.
72, 73, what do we have here? 82, 83, 97, 98. We're some of the largest El Ninos.
Give me some numbers.
How about 210?
210.
It's 210 inches of snow in 72, 73. El Nino.
My gosh, that's got to be like the jumbo then.
The
biggest
that's
so
the
far
biggest.
in record?
That is the biggest on record. And what we see is that the stronger the El Nino, the more likely it is that Flagstaff is going to see significantly more snowfall. Interesting fact is for weak and moderate El Ninos, there's very little preference for a greater or less than normal snowfall in Flagstaff. But once you get into that strong category, which we are now, then there's a strong preference. Actually, out of 5 out of the past 6 strong El Ninos have had much greater than normal snowfall.
What's normal?
Let's say 100 inches.
Okay.
And those 6 strong El Ninos average about 130 inches. It's almost 30% more than normal.
So more storms, more frequent, and bigger.
Well, more storms, more frequent. Bigger.
Doesn't have to be, right? Because you've already got more coming.
Doesn't have to be. That's right. Actually, the biggest snowfall in Flagstaff ever, when we had 8 or 9 feet back in '67, came during a La Nina year. So.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can happen.
So this is not, so what you're saying, this may be not a guaranteed thing. I mean, we could be saying it's really super strong El Nino, and it may not really happen.
That's right. I mean,
possible.
Statistically, you could say, if you look at the official outlooks, that there's still a 15% chance that this winter will be less than normal.
Okay.
So small chance.
Okay.
But the likelihood is, we're going to have a real Flagstaff winter.
Now, 2010, off the top of your head, do you remember how much snow was 2010?
About 140.
140 inches?
Yep.
Okay. And that was enough to fill Lower and Upper Lake
That's
Mary.
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And I remember downtown area of Flagstaff, they were dump truck and snow.
That was a tough
out
one,
of there
yeah.
because it was a big winter. This year, I think it's really interesting how the weather seems to almost pick on an area. Prescott seems to have been really pounded this year by a lot of rain. They've had lots and lots of rain.
They have, and the past couple years we've seen that as well.
Matter of fact, driving down this morning, I noticed, and I always love that when there's, because it's dark. It's always dark when I'm on the road in the morning. But it was really a nice light show over the top of Mingus Mountain. It wasn't on Mingus Mountain, but just behind Mingus Mountain, you could see the ridge of Mingus lighting up constantly on my way down the hill this morning. And I always love that very much. It's really nice. So, yeah, in the federal forecasters, they were talking about how 97, 98 was a monster El Nino, but we've seen, well, I guess the other events aren't considered El Nino events. Was 2010 El Nino?
It was a moderate El Nino.
A moderate. So this is a strong one. They're saying a monster El Nino 97, 98, but that was 137 inches of snow.
That's right.
Where actually the moderate one was even more.
Even more.
So it just shows.
There's a lot of variability.
Right.
A lot of variability.
Right. Okay. How long does an El Nino phenomenon last for? Because, like I said earlier in the show, I feel like we've been kind of staging folks for this throughout the year this year. Even back when we were talking about monsoon, it seemed like we were talking El Nino a little bit. How long does something like this go on for?
About 8 to 10 months. Might be typical. And it peaks normally in between November and January. It's very typical for an El Nino.
Do we know exactly what triggers it and what turns it off?
It's a chicken and egg type of argument. The normal conditions are for the trade winds, these easterly winds in the equator to blow and have the warm water off to the west. But at times the trade winds weaken, and that allows kind of a redistribution of this warm water to a more easterly part of the equatorial Pacific, which forms the El Nino. So does the warm water decrease the trade winds, or does the decrease in the trade winds allow for the water to migrate? We really don't know yet.
Hence the chicken and the egg.
That's right.
Okay. Now, we talked about 2010. 93 seemed like a big year.
That was a very big year.
I think a lot of folks probably, if they were here in 93, they remember 93.
Yeah.
I remember it very clearly because this is what I was doing at the time, news. And I remember very clearly how Flagstaff had got, I don't know if Flagstaff ever received more snow or regular snow that year. But then we had some very warm storms come in.
That's right. The spring of 93 was absolutely devastating to the area. We had record amounts of rainfall on snow, so we had that additive amount of the melted snow plus the rain caused Oak Creek to go to, I believe, its highest level ever. In that event, a lot of flooding in Flagstaff. But interestingly enough, that was just a weak El Nino that year. So.
Before we take our next break, which we've got to do in about a minute and a half, what are some of the hazards we need to be thinking about during the winter months?
Think about your commute. A lot of folks in northern Arizona have a pretty long commute. Imagine you're stuck in the snow halfway to your destination. What do you need in the car to make sure you're safe? Is it chains? Is it sand? Is it extra food? Is it something to keep you warm? Cell phone, extra batteries. Just make sure you have the supplies in your car available to keep you safe. Let's say if you're stranded for 3 to 6 hours.
Keep that gas tank full.
Keep the gas tank full. Absolutely.
Keep the battery, cell phone battery charged. We talked about that. The cell phone is the greatest thing.
It is.
It has saved so many lives out there. So I think the cell phone is really important. Make sure that battery's charged and have a second backup battery. That's been recommended a lot lately, especially this year too, especially with search and rescue. Folks are saying have a second battery handy just in case the one you've got in your phone goes out. Because, you see them in traffic. They're sitting there looking at it, and you spend all that time on that phone, and just watch that battery go down. So make sure you have a second one. We're going to have DPS in, I think, mid to late October to kind of talk about stuff we should have in our vehicle. We kind of do a safety winter reminder show about that. Okay, let's take our second break, and we'll come back. We got Festival of Science coming up, and you guys got a weather open house coming up too.
Open house on Saturday.
Okay, so Brian Klimowski with the National Weather Service in Belmont in studio today. Stick around, countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom. It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Countywide. Just a couple minutes left of the program. Brian Klimowski with the National Weather Service in Belmont in studio today. NOAA.gov, NOAA.gov is the website for more information. Mackenzie put together a really nice 6-minute El Nino video. It's on YouTube, but you can access it right through your website, I believe. I think it's still on the top page. I hope
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And that was Megan.
Yeah. Megan?
Megan
Schweitzer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it's just really, really great. All right, Festival of Science coming up.
When?
You
bet. We call it the 10 best days of the year. It started last Friday, continues through Sunday the 27th up in Flagstaff. Over 90 free events, all about science, getting people excited about science in Flagstaff.
Okay, how do we find out more?
SciFest.org.
SciFest.org. Okay, and then you guys, as part of that, have your open house coming up. I've been to a couple of those. They're a lot of fun.
That's right. The National Weather Service open house is on Saturday, the 26th, from 11 until 5. We'll have a number of things set up there. You can speak to forecasters about how we actually come up with the forecast. The focus will be on El Nino this year to bring some interesting information to bear on that. We'll be doing 2 weather balloon launches.
1 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
You got it. That's
1 o'clock
right.
and 4 o'clock. And then, plus you get to see do you actually tour the inside of the building?
Absolutely, yep. Right. You'll see the actual computers that
you
we
see
make
some
forecasts.
computers. Yeah, you go see Brian's office. You guys have got some serious computers up there.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the balloons are really interesting, I think. The launch and this little tiny box you put on there.
That's right.
And all the information you can get out of those boxes, too.
That's right. Weather, temperature, humidity, pressure, it's all there.
Yeah, okay. So that is coming up Saturday, 11 to 5, you said?
11 to 5.
11 to 5 on Saturday is the open house. And so you don't have to guess where to go. Take I-40 westbound.
That's right.
Out of Flagstaff, and you'll hit Belmont. What is it, about a 10-minute drive out of Flagstaff?
About a 10-minute drive. We'll have signs out there to steer people in the right direction.
Yeah. Camp Navajo?
Camp Navajo.
Right next to Camp Navajo. As you enter the Camp Navajo area, Weather Service is right there on the right-hand side.
Right on the right
You can't
side.
miss it. You guys have got one of those, what is that, silo? What is that thing out there?
Oh, the white shelter, the balloon shelter. Yeah, the white
The
dome on the
balloon
left.
shelter.
Yeah.
Because every balloon needs a shelter.
That's right.
All right, Brian, thanks so much for coming in.
Paul,
good to see you.
Always great.
We'll see you again, I would imagine, next spring.
Yeah, I'll
Talk
be
about
here.
spring and summer.
Sounds
okay.
good.
That's today's Countywide. Again, the website, NOAA.gov, NOAA.gov. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you again next time.